Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Every Copy Counts Unlocking the Music Publishing Industry session. Absolutely delighted to welcome you all here this afternoon. This is our first ever annual Copycat Challenge week, where we are encouraging schools to enter printed music data on what they are copying and arranging in their schools under the school's printed music licence. I'm Abigail de Moray. I'm the director of Every Copy Counts, and Every Copy Counts is a new initiative to support schools to help the most of the school's printed music licence. If you want to find out more about the school's printed music licence, please head over to our website at everycopycounts.co.uk, where you can sign up to our online portal to start entering data on the music that you're using in your school. You can get all sorts of benefits, including lots of free resources. And if you enter your data this week, the week beginning the 20th of June, there are also some fantastic prizes available courtesy of our colleagues in the music publishing industry. So that brings me on to today's session. I'm absolutely thrilled to be welcoming a panel of members of the music publishing industry. And the purpose of today is to really help schools and music educators to understand more about the music publishing industry. As a music educator myself, I found it absolutely fascinating finding out about this absolutely vast industry and the work that they do to support creators, composers, songwriters and arrangers. So I'm going to bring on screen now colleagues Richard King from Favourite Music, Tom Farncombe from Hal Leonard, Jackie Orway from Universal Music Publishing, and Vicky Smith from Printed Music Licensing Limited, which is the organisation that administers and oversees the school's printed music licence. So welcome everybody, it's fantastic to have you with us this afternoon talking to teachers and music educators. So I'd like to start with the question, what is a music publisher? And I'd like to go to Jackie first, if that's okay, to answer that question.
Okay, hello everybody. Thanks so much for joining. A music publisher is, I am very happy to say, probably one of the best jobs in the world. I know we all think we have that. Music publishers are convinced of that. We are the sort of business partners of songwriters. In the music industry, everything starts with the song. You know, to make a record of silence has been done, but it's not necessarily a repeatable exercise. So you need a song, and then you need a business partner to help bring the song and make it live in the business world, in the real world, to make sure that the songwriters can get paid. And that's what music publishers do. So we have contracts with songwriters where we get to represent all rights in their songs for every kind of exploitation that's possible, because songs, you get paid when songs are performed, you get paid when songs are put onto recordings, you get paid when songs are put into films and other media. So there's a vast array of opportunities for songwriters to earn money, and music publishers help songwriters realize their dreams in that way. And I'm really excited when we get onto the sort of the careers section later on, so we can talk a bit more about all the different facets of music publishing. But so when you come to printed music, there will be a publisher who has invested in and owns the song that you're dealing with, and then separately you'll have a print publisher to represent the specific effort that my colleagues are going to talk about from the print world. So that's essentially what a music publisher is.
Thanks so much, Jackie. I like the realising the dreams aspect of it. And just because obviously we're asking schools to report on the music publisher from a piece of music. So are you able to talk a bit about when you have a piece of printed music, where you're likely to find the music publisher, or perhaps a few examples of some music publishers on that piece of music?
Yeah, I mean, I think you will always see the music publisher, hopefully, on the sheet music. I was having a quick look at Running Up the Hill just now, since that it's #1 at the moment. And on the version I was looking at, they had obviously the credit to Kate Bush at the top in her real name. We had the arranger credited, and then at the bottom of the page, if you look, you'll see the copyright line, which has a little C for copyright in a circle, the year of the song being for the copyright date, and then the name of the publisher of the song. So that's where you can see who owns the underlying song that has been used in the printed sheet music.
Wonderful, thanks, Jackie. So on to you, Richard. Can you tell us a bit about what a print publisher does?
Yeah, sure. And so Jackie has just touched on the fact that a music publisher is there to bring that song into life in a business sense. And so we'll be focused on all manner of ways that a song can manifest and be used. So think of every single usage as one of those ways it can come to life, and it can be many, many different things, one of which is indeed in print. And print publishers tend to be quite specialized. So we're a little different as a use of a song in a print publication is a little different to the use of a song, say, in a film or in a TV program or in a record that is licensed by the music publisher to the record label, because we actually manifest this as a physical product, usually, not always, but usually. So we are effectively a product business. We conceive things that we then manufacture in multiple copies, stack them up in a warehouse and sell them around the world to people who want to use them. Now, as far as that goes, it's a very traditional business, has basically been with us for as long as the printing press has been a thing. So we're going back to the 15th century, I think, here. However, of course, technology comes into it in a big way. And there are many ways in which technology is now used as part of that process, either in the creation of what goes into the book is transmitted to whoever it is that's going to actually do the physical manufacture. And indeed, nowadays, many a time, we don't actually make a physical book. We create the content of the book digitally, and then we actually get that distributed and used through digital channels. So, for example, some of you will be familiar with maybe the Music Notes platform, which is a way of downloading PDFs so that you can print them. And you'll hear from Tom Farncombe soon of how Leonard they have their own digital platform, and you can take content from that and use it either on screen or print it off yourself if you want to. So what we've discovered as a print publisher is that there are many different types of musician and teacher out there, all of whom have their own personal way that they like to use music, and many of whom use music in different ways themselves. And I'm sure that some of you will be amongst those. So, I personally use music both digitally on a screen. I sometimes get hold of it online and print it off myself. And I, of course, use printed music and books. Depends what kind of music I'm using it for, and what the purpose is. So in other words, it's quite a mixed media situation out there that we are trying to publish into. As a commercial publisher, it's our job to try and work out things that enough people out there want for it to be worth creating. And in that sense, we're very like a book publisher that's trying to think of something that they can sell in quantity, that a lot of people want in a certain way. It's just a bit more specialized, especially when you're talking about educational music, where we may be dealing with a piano method or a repertoire collection, and there we are trying to think of a commercial angle for collecting together a bunch of songs or pieces or works, whatever they may be, making them fit for purpose, the right sort of level, arranging them in the way that we think through our market research we think people want them. And basically, we survive if we get that right more often than we get it wrong. I suppose in one way, we're a little like a record label because, of course, while that's mostly digital these days, they do indeed create physical products, and vinyl is a good example. And finally, I'll just say, before Tom will give some good thoughts on this too, some of us print publishers are finding quite a rich seam in going sort of the high-end specialized route, a bit like record labels have often done with vinyl, luxury vinyl. Where the tactile physical product is desired even more. And I wondered to myself, in fact, I do think that the ephemeral nature of digital means that us as humans, we like physical stuff too. I think there's been quite a marked upturn in the appeal of higher value, should we say, physical publications, which have got high production standards and tactile and things that either are beauty or things that you actually really want to keep and collect. There has become an increased market for that kind of publication in recent years, we've noticed. So there's just a flavour of it. I'm sure you'll get a different flavour from Tom, but over to you, Tom. Do you want to add something? Tom's the other print publisher here in a big way, and I think it'd be good to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who's listening. I guess a good starting point might be to say that once upon a time, so a couple of centuries ago, music publishing and printed music publishing were inseparable, because a piece of printed music, of sheet music, was the only way in which a piece of music could be commercially exploited. Over time, the ways in which a song might earn money for its creator has expanded and diversified, as Jackie was explaining, and the business of printed music has become a more specialist business, dealt with by basically specialist book publishers. At Hal Leonard, our speciality is in representing songs owned by other publishers and putting them into print. So, as an example, this is a recent Hal Leonard publication. Can you see that? This is one of quite a long list of publications that ties into Disney's Encanto. Our job is to take those songs and to create products that allow people to play and sing the songs that they love. And so a song from a Disney musical, or a new a movie, or a new pop song, we'll take and we'll create arrangements for all kinds of instruments, all kinds of levels, choirs, bands, ensembles, and for classroom use as well. So that's become our speciality, taking the songs that a publisher like Jackie administers and turning them into a format that people can perform from. The way that we express who the print publisher is on a piece of music, I was just realizing as well that with the example earlier that Jackie was explaining about where to find the copyright notice on a piece of music. Here is a piece of music. Can you see? Get my camera. At the top, we have the name of the song. We've got the name of the composer, in this case, Taylor Swift. You may have heard of her. At the bottom of the page, we have the copyright notice, which is the assertion of copyright in the song, and it's where you'll find the details of the music publisher. On the outside of the book, you'll see that this is a Hal Leonard publication. This is expressed as many times as we can fit it on the product. So Hal Leonard on the front. There'll be Hal Leonard on the spine as part of the Hal Leonard instrumental play-along. Hal Leonard also on the back cover. And we're really leaving no chances here. There's all of the details about how to contact us here as well. So that's, by and large, you will find the print music publisher's details on the outside of the product. You'll find the music publisher, the publisher of the underlying copyright will be listed actually on the first page of music of each song. I think that's everything I have to say.
That's really helpful, thanks.
Can I just say one thing, Abby, as well? The reason why all this data collection is so important is because of that chain back to the creators. So, you get Hal Leonard and Faber doing their amazing stuff on behalf of, in this case, Universal, and then Universal reports back for most of that money to the our partners, our songwriters, and the owners of their catalogue. So that's the chain back. It's not just about boring companies sitting, putting copyright notices over everything. And, this is because if you get the data right, then the reporting works, flows back to PMLL, and we make sure the right people get paid for the use of the music. And most of that money goes to the creators.
Absolutely, and I think you've brought us really nicely onto the next question, which is why is copyright, why is the reporting so important for the music publishing industry? And obviously the school's printed music license is one way of this happening. So Vicky, I just wondered if I could come to you just to talk a bit about why the school's printed music license is so important for the music publishing industry and for creators.
Yeah, I think for a few reasons, really. I think, the license itself allows teachers to access a wide variety of music really easily and simply under one licensing scheme. So it means that students can get access to different genres of music. And we like to think that, that will inspire them to learn an instrument, to compose a song. And those students will hopefully one day go on to perhaps be a writer or a composer of a song, be signed to a publisher, and they themselves might write works that are, covered under the license. So it effectively is developing a talent pipeline for our publishers. But as Jackie mentioned, more importantly, the biggest thing is that it ensures that those creators, those composers and writers of those works are being fairly paid. So a condition of the license is that you must report what you copy. And I know sometimes it can be boring and it can be quite tedious, but it's so important to make sure, as an organisation, we are paid license fees so that you can use the music as teachers. And we need to know what works you're using, because we need to be sure that we're paying the right people. So the license fees that we get in, we then distribute back out to our publishers. And as Jackie mentioned, they onward pay to composers and writers of the music. But without that information, we can't pay the right people. So we need to, if someone's song is copied, creators need to be able to earn a living from the fact that they're allowing their works to be used in this way. And the only way we can make sure that they're paid properly is for you to report data to us. So when you make an arrangement of a song or when you make a copy of a song, we need to know, as we said, the print publisher, the music publishers, that we can pay the right people.
Vicky, and I'm just putting down here how you can do that reporting. So every Copy Counts is here to really help you to make the most of the license, but also to understand how to report. Richard, as chair of PMLL, do you have anything to add about why this is so important, why the school's printing music license really helps?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt through my career in publishing that we're here to solve problems, and if there isn't a problem to be solved, then there's no work to be done. PMLL, when we started it, it was quite clear that there was a problem to be solved. There was confusion and sometimes nervousness in the teaching community as to what was okay and not okay. Rumours go around that you can copy for some uses or not others, and so on and so forth. And so there was a problem there that we felt could do with a lot of clarity. And the other problem is that the creator, has been touched on already, was suffering. And when the photocopier first became a thing, and I'm going to guess that must have been in the 70s or something, or 80s, when it became possible to produce things quite fast and cheaply, there was a lot of nervousness in and amongst the print publishing community, and probably with good reason. But I think the biggest nervousness would have been amongst the composers and creators of the music, because once you can't have your music sort of should we say, fairly remunerated through a sale of a reasonably priced book, but that book could be bought once and made multiple uses of, that there was a fear of that. I have to say, the fear was not fully manifest in reality, because there were people, and there always have been folk around, perhaps even the majority, who know that it's not right to do that, instinctively maybe feel it's wrong. And so while it has been a problem for the publisher in the middle, and in turn for the writer, in some ways it's not been as bad as it could have been. Nonetheless, there's clearly been over the years quite a lot of such copying going on. And what we felt as PMLL was that we needed to find a really reasonable, affordable and decent way for both parties' problems to be solved. And that was where we felt the best way would be to see if we could get a central license on behalf of all of the schools. So certainly in all 4 parts of the UK, that is the case. And we are able, therefore, to have negotiated decent deals that serve the composer well, but remove any sort of administrative burden from the teacher, from the teaching institution, from the school, in terms of having to get a license individually. It's sort of been got for you, basically. There are little corners, certain areas of teaching, the teaching practice, the education market, where it's a little different. The private schools don't work in quite the same way, but nonetheless, overall, there's been a really good piece of problem solving going on there that has now serves both the teachers, I think, and the writers. And certainly we've had messages back from a lot of our writers, which is, although the amount of money coming through in the end for a particular work, maybe sort of on the face of it relatively modest, it's been fantastically well received, because having something coming back where they know this practice has been happening, and the relief, I think, amongst the teaching community that they can actually now do this legitimately, has kind of solved both problems, really. So in essence, I think that's what we're about. That's what we're trying. That's what we've tried to achieve. And I think we are achieving it. We can close the circle if we can get great data coming back, because that means we can ensure that the right people absolutely get paid. And that is the challenge that we still have.
Thanks, Richard. Tom, do you have anything to add on that point around the schools printed music license?
I think I was just going to say that the ultimately this all comes back to the principle of copyright, which is really at the heart of our industry. The rationale for copyright protection is to offer the creator protection over their work, which is then creates the conditions for an economic incentive to mean that people create more works. If we don't have copyright, then there won't be great songs, great pieces of music in the future. So from that quite simple principle, there's a whole industry and a whole ecosystem of moving parts, as it were. So it's a terrible mixed metaphor. But the around publishers and printed music publishers and the users of music. And an initiative like the Schools Printed Music License feeds into that ecosystem. It connects the user to ultimately to the creator being paid. So I think it's a very good example of a successful licensing model working, and making sure that creators are compensated when their works are copied. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom. But before I move on to my next question, we've just had a question from Michelle, which I'm going to ask Jackie. I'm going to put it up on screen, and it will momentarily make everyone a bit smaller. But Michelle's question is, will there always be a music publisher and a print publisher for sheet music, even downloadable PDFs? Or will sometimes there only be a music publisher? Jackie, would you be able to answer that first?
Well, it's as Tom said, it's entirely possible for the same entity to work with songwriters and also be a print publisher. That's possible, but I think generally you should look for there to be two entities. That's the more normal model. But I mean, there's the song. Copyright is a series of restricted acts. So I don't want to get too technical about this, but so a songwriter can choose which rights to place where. Generally, the model is that the songwriter will contract with a music publisher for all of their rights, and the music publisher will outsource the specialized print function to a print publisher. So that's the standard model. But it is entirely possible for a print publisher to also acquire the copyright and work in a wider way than just in print. So I hope that answers your question. And I think this points to the point about that Tom was making about this license creating a virtuous circle really of education, because copyright isn't a negative. Copyright is the tool which powers investment in creativity, which gives us music, which gives us the industry, which can provide thousands of jobs to the young people that we're educating to understand copyright today, and understand that if you do things in a legitimate way, and it's our job to make that easy, but if that can be legitimately licensed and paid for, then this is a positive that feeds this industry that we're talking about, and creators get paid, and I think it's important for kids to understand that nowadays. They live in a world where they fully understand that intangibles create revenue. This is their world, and we're just helping them to understand a small piece of it.
Thanks, Jackie. Richard, did you want to come in on this question?
Yeah, I mean that's all absolutely. That's completely agree with all of that. Of course, I would just say a lot of people misunderstand what a print publisher is, because the obsession can be with the word print. Yes, we do make stuff, but actually we're pretty agnostic as to how that goes out there into the world, whether that's done as a physical printed book or done as a digital download or as a stream to a device. That doesn't speak to the core of what we are. What we feel we are is an outfit that's got such specialists in terms of our in-house editorial arranging and other staff that we use, both our employed staff and a team of freelance people out there that are very, very good at what they do. What we're trying to do is to take a song which in its bare bones is perfect for the songwriter who wrote and performed it, who probably never wrote it down. I mean, in some situations, they might have written down a lead sheet or lyrics, and actually making that work for anything from an absolute beginner guitarist to a piano player whose little finger isn't very good, to a singer that has only got a certain range, to a small ensemble, to you name it. And actually the skill involved in turning that song into something which works in all those scenarios is where the heart of a print publisher's work lies. So if we can do that really, really well, in other words, bring the music to as many people that want to have a crack at performing it and learning it as possible, as at appropriate levels. I mean, some songs we will produce many versions of them, all at different levels and for different instruments. Then that's our job done, and that's what we're basically about. So it is a very musical job, and it's one where we have some seriously good arrangers and musicians working for us who know what you need as teachers and as musicians, and what the music publisher, in the case of Jackie, through their artist, will be prepared to approve, because not everything is approved. They may not be happy about an arrangement for something that, parodies the song or changes it into something it really isn't meant to be. So there's quite an art to getting all of that right. And that's the heart of what we do. Whether it manifests, whichever way it manifests, as long as, there is sufficient revenue coming back to enable us to carry on doing what we do and to pay the songwriter correctly, and indeed the arranger and anybody else involved in the process, then we have a business and it can work.
Thanks.
Can I add something to that? Because up to now we've been discussing the principle of a music publisher who has the songs, and a print music publisher which might be a partner to that music publisher for the purposes of creating printed products. I think it's worth saying that, and especially in the context of music in the classroom, that there are music publishers who do their own print, as it were, and that might I can think of very good examples, especially within classical music publishers. So if you take a publisher such as Boozy and Hawkes, they also are a print music publisher. And also there are education specialists where the content in the book, which is a copyright just like any other, has been created purely for the purposes of that educational product. And so they are the print music publisher and also by extension a music publisher. So I think that's, if we think about the print music publishing that comes out of the exam boards, if we think about classroom materials such as Music Express, or we think about classical and choral music, then sometimes the distinction between the two isn't quite as clear as it could be. Anyway, I just thought that was worth saying, given that we're talking about a license that's used in schools, and a lot of educational materials are at play here.
And also, I mean, that's a really good point, Tom. And also, there are digital specialists in the print world. So just because we use the word print, there doesn't have to be a physical printed copy. So, for instance, Music Notes, which is a very big digital print provider. In that situation, you've got Music Notes and you've got the music publisher. You don't have to have a sort of another print publisher involved in that chain. In that case, Music Notes fulfills that second print publisher function.
A question that I've been asked by a few teachers is if a teacher themselves composes something and wants to get it published, what might be the routes that they could take to do that?
Well, it's up. They could publish it themselves. These days, that's perfectly possible to do technically. But the question they'll be asking themselves is, am I interested in doing that when I'm actually a teacher and a musician? That's usually where the publisher comes in, because we could take over the professionalizing, if you like, of the presentation of it, whether digital or physical, and obviously the concept. Well, the concept will be there, but the marketing of it and the connecting of that music to hopefully the widest possible market. That said, we do, and I'm sure Tom's the same, we do get written to a lot, and there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only a certain amount we can do. But I have to say there's some quite high profile examples in our catalogue where somebody just wrote to us and said, I've written these pieces. At the time it was French horn and piano. Will you publish them? Well, French horn and piano, God bless the French horn players, and I hope there's some out there. There aren't all that many of you, and it's not a very big market, but we really liked the pieces. And that was Pam Wedgwood, who many of you will know, and has turned into one of the most prolific educational writers that not only we've ever had, but is out there at all. When she got into the world of the piano, where there is a bigger market, we ended up doing very well with her for an awful lot of her music. So that came as an unsolicited approach, but I have to say it's tough to do it that way. And we sometimes just don't have enough time to look at stuff, but you can get things out there yourself. And I would just say, keep trying, because there are, and try and connect what you're doing with what you think would be of interest to a particular publisher you're writing to, rather than just write the same duplicate letter to everybody, because we all work in somewhat different ways.
Great. Would anyone else like to jump in with that, or shall I move on?
I'd echo what Richard was saying. There are platforms for self-publishing. We have a digital platform that allows people to distribute sheet music independently. We do receive unsolicited submissions as well. It's always, as Richard was saying, it's quite difficult to be able to give everything as much time as we would like. I think the part of the challenge can be that there are some fantastic teachers out there who are inspiring leaders and are able to run fantastic ensembles and so on, and use their own music in that context. When they're taken out of the equation, i.e. if someone else is to pick up on their materials and use them without their specific energy and expertise, it may be that it doesn't work quite so well. So that's worth bearing in mind. Does it, if you're going to try and interest a publisher, does what you've written really translate universally to every other teacher and possible setting that the music might be used in? That would be my advice.
Thanks, Tom. That's really helpful. Look, I'm interested in moving on to think a little bit about careers, because obviously, there are many young people who are aware of the music industry, but I wonder if they're aware of the music publishing industry. So, Jackie, could I come to you first, just to talk a bit about, what could a career in the music publishing industry involve?
Yeah. So. The great thing about music publishing is that it covers absolutely every skill set that you can think of, and attaches it to the amazing world of music, which is what makes it so fantastic. So, people think about the music industry, they think they have to be a performer. No, there are people like me who spectacularly failed at being a performer, and that's why I'm a music publisher, and I think that counts for a lot of music publishers. So when you go through the creative process, or the music publishing process, your first point of contact will probably be a creative, so somebody called Artist and Repertoire, A&R, and their job is to find new talents. So they have great ears, they go out and they have probably the best job in the world, which is go out and listening to music and finding new music. That opportunity is brought to the publisher. The next bit of the chain would probably be a contact with the legal department, a contract finalized, negotiated, and sorted through. So you've got creatives, you've got lawyers. Then you get into the exciting bit of synchronization and opportunities for exploiting a song. So you have essentially more of a sales function, pushing songs out into the world, trying to create opportunities for them with advertising agencies and production houses. So that's more of a sales function, if you like, with a very, very strong creative musical bent to it. Then you have the people who do the paperwork around the licensing, who don't have to be qualified lawyers, but they have a strong business brains. And then you get into administration, which is a really big area of publishing, where you have people inputting data, you have managing the copyrights around the world, interacting with business partners. So you have a big what's called a back office function, and that those people are skilled at detail and a love of music, and just making sure that all the operational side works, and that includes a very strong IT element, systems development. So you can be almost anything in the world and find a bit of it within music publishing and slot yourself into the group. And the other thing I would say, I had lunch today with an amazing woman from a charity for the disabled called Attitude is Everything, and I said to her, why are there so few disabled people in the music industry? And it's because at school level and at college level, people are told that that these opportunities aren't really for them, because unbelievably, one was told, you need to be a secretary because then you can sit down all day. I mean, this is the kind of thing we need to break through, because music publishing is open to absolutely everybody, and is definitely an accessible career. And we are really committed to that sort of inclusivity in our industry. So it's a great, almost anybody can be a music publisher. You can find a place in our industry, and it's a great way to earn a living. I would really encourage it.
Thanks, Jackie, and yeah, Attitude is Everything is doing some critically important work. So just on that, just before I move on to others about careers, we've had a question about whether, Jackie, you could say a little bit more about synchronisation, because that certainly was an area I wasn't familiar with. So I'm sure people would be really interested just to hear a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, so that's the authorization to allow music to be used in timed relation with visual images. So if somebody wants to make an advert including music synchronized with visual images, they need permission to do that, and you can get that permission direct from the music publisher. And sometimes for certain uses, that right is included in some bundled blanket licenses for broadcast, for instance, in the UK. So, but there is a specific right called the synchronization right, which is the use of music with moving images, and music publishers grant licenses for that and ask for fees, which are then reported through to the creator.
Wonderful, thank you. Tom, can I come on to you about careers in print music publishing?
Certainly. I think that everything that Jackie has said in terms of there's a huge range of skills can be applied within music publishing of all kinds. I think it's always worth considering. I would like to say this, that if you think about roles which are sort of generic in business, such as finance or HR, etc., there's fantastic places to work in music publishing if you're an accountant, etc. I think for printed music publishing, perhaps the difference with the broader music publishing sector to consider is that, by and large, most people certainly within roles dedicated to content, but probably also to sales and marketing, are probably trained musicians. And if you look around look at most printed music publishers' employees, they're typically highly qualified instrumentalists. They've probably got music degrees, and they've come through a degree, a sort of extensive music education. They may still be performing at a professional level. So it's an expectation that I think a printed music publisher would have around most people that they employ, because you need to have an affinity with the product, with what we do and how it's used, and that's difficult to replicate unless you've actually been a user of our products. So it doesn't mean that there's a strict route to achieve that, but it's certainly it would be unusual to not play an instrument or be interested in doing so. I think other than that, though, there's the only other thing I would add is that increasingly as digital products have become part of what we do. I mean, we've been selling digital sheet music for 20 years, so it's not brand new, but at the same time, the technology is developing the whole time. New opportunities are coming up, and as a result, there's more and more call for software developers, for people who can be product managers, who understand digital products and can bring them to market. So that's it's another field to consider where computer science or other tech skills can be brought into music publishing.
Thank you. We've had a question from Mairead. Are there any specific music publishing industry career fairs? Richard, I was just about to come on to you. Is that something you can respond to as well as your answer, or is that someone else?
Not really is the short answer. Unless my colleagues want to tell me otherwise, and I've been missing them. But I don't think there are, and that's a sign, partly that though a big industry, it is actually very specialised. I think the thing to remember is that it's a career that is open to many different skills, and obviously Jackie has said it. I did a talk in a school recently, and when I said to them who I was and what I did, music publisher and whatever, and when the day before, I sort of said, how many people are going to be there? And it was like 3 or something. It was hardly any. And I said, okay, that's fine. But, you are aware that I can talk about, this is not just about musicians. Oh, they only actually inform the music department. And when I said, well, look, in our company, and we're quite a small company, but we're about 50 or 60 employees, but we face all directions in terms of music. So we are both a music publisher and a print publisher. So we, as a small company, have specialists in legal, accountancy, and other support functions, marketing, promotion, sales, tech and IT, obviously editorial, creative, and everything in between. And so when they did that, they got the word out differently, and there were suddenly 25 people there, and you've got a pool of people with and so all that I would say is that have a passion for music, great to have a degree, and a lot of our staff happen to be degree or higher education qualified in one way or another in a music discipline. But the main thing I'd say is have a passion for music, and some of the best music industry lawyers have a huge passion for music, and they for example, and they combine, Jackie's one of them, and they combine that with their very formal technical skills, and that is the beauty of it. But no, I'm sorry, I just don't think there are music fairs as such, but we are very, very open to, and we're constantly hunting talent. There is constant change, and we're looking at talent in the widest possible way as well. I'd say we connect with an organization called Creative Access, and we're always looking to increase the diversity and range. We've been okay as a company from a gender diversity perspective for some time, but there's so much more obviously to it than that. And I would really urge and encourage anyone who's got a passion for music, but maybe is from a less represented area of society to get those applications in. We're really hungry for them at the moment. And, just keep your eye on the opportunities do pop up. We do advertise widely, and there are ways these days with Googling, LinkedIn, and all sorts of other ways of finding the jobs that are available, and there are plenty of them. But it's but fairs and trade. I mean, I'd love to say that we did have that kind of stuff, but as far as I'm aware, we don't.
Thanks, Richard. Vicky, do you have any sort of advice on careers in the whole data collection side? And
so just a couple of things to say. The Music Publishers Association, who's the trade body for music publishers, there isn't a careers fair as such, but they do go out and talk to schools, representatives from them, and they do go to a lot of universities to raise awareness of music publishing and careers. And also to keep an eye out on the Music Publishers Association website, because there's jobs listed on there all the time from all our different members. So that's quite a good place to look for roles. In terms of the career industry, so I worked in copyright before I joined PML for 16 years to do with a different area of copyright. And I have a law and business degree. I don't have a music degree at all. And I have to admit that I'd never heard of music publishing when I got my job. And I've learned so much over the last 5 years. It's an absolutely fascinating industry. And as Jackie has said, there's something for everyone. You know, I work very much in the back office, I would say, so in an administration role in terms of data and distributions. But it's just amazing. I love my job. I know data isn't for everyone, but I find it fascinating. You know, all the different things that I do as part of my role. We've developed a system. We do distributions. We collect data. It's an absolutely fascinating industry, but it's not just, you know, being in a band or writing a song. There's so many different facets of the industry, and I think we need to be better at promoting it.
Thank you, everybody. We're coming quite near the end of our session now, and I know that Jackie has to leave us shortly. So, Jackie, just before you go, do you have one piece of advice for a young person who might be interested in a career in the music publishing industry?
Yeah, I think it's just to demonstrate interest and passion from a young age. You know, the CVs that are most impressive are those where the kids have been pushing, or the young people have been pushing for work placements with music companies, music related companies over the years, and have engaged with the industry through, there are lots of opportunities for sort of talks, and the industry does push out lots of lectures and sort of access to sort of one-on-one music publishing from time to time. So try and do work placements, try and attend, you know, some basic beginner level courses if you want to sort of demonstrate a passion for the industry. There are some brilliant music business degrees now. University of Hertfordshire is a notable one, but there's so many really good degrees in sort of the music industry now, and every aspect of the music industry, including, you know, modules on music publishing, and have that passion for music. Go to gigs, you know, show that you love music. But it's but if young people turn up unprepared, it's so competitive. It is very competitive to get jobs. So scrabble for a work placement, a connection through, you know, the MPA website is helpful, but, you know, just somehow find a way into a music company and get a week work experience. That's a great way to start.
Fantastic, thanks, Jackie. If anybody has any questions or comments, by the way, please do put them in the comments box. Richard, one piece of advice for young people?
Yeah, I mean, very much what Jackie said. The thing that we often notice is that the passion may appear to be there from a general music perspective, or even a very specific one, but differentiate your approach. We're all different as publishers. We have different things that make us tick. And if you're in front of a particular publisher, whether it be for an intern post or for an actual full-time job that's going, work out that publisher before you get there. There's loads of ways you can do that. It's very easy with Googling and so on. And just see if you can get behind the headlines of that publisher and put two and two together and try and work out what it is that makes that publisher tick. What is really the main ethos of that organization and what is making them work as a commercial business. If you've done a bit of that, then it really does come across, you know, that you may well be for them. And that's the advice I would give.
Wonderful, thanks, Richard. Vicky, a bit of golden advice and wisdom from you.
I think just to think about what it is that you're interested in and kind of play to your skills. So, you know, is it behind the scenes? Is it admin? Is it wanting to go out and listen to bands? And as Richard and Jackie have both said, do your research and really try to kind of get some experience in the industry, because that's the best way to find out what it is that you'd like to do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vicky. Tom?
I think I continue the theme of research. Music publishing is brilliant. It's also complex. It's very, very difficult to summarize the business. It means different things to different people. It means different things to different companies. But there's a lot of material out there to get a really good grasp on this. And a very good start is I don't know, put music publishing into Spotify in the podcast section, and you'll find a huge number of brilliant people talking at length about publishing. And it's a really good way to immerse yourself in technical knowledge being talked about firsthand by experts. So yeah, you can go a long way to finding out what you need to know simply with things that are at your fingertips.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. We're coming to the end of our session, so thank you, Richard, Vicky, Jackie and Tom. It's been really valuable. I've certainly learned a lot, and I really hope that this has been useful for all of the teachers and hopefully young people out there who are interested in this as a possible career, but also to help and support teachers with being able to put in their data. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and thank you to everybody who's out there watching. Don't forget that this is the week to really try and get in your sheet music data. There's a chance to win some fantastic prizes from Hal Leonard, from Faber, the Music Publishers Association. We've got some brilliant content still this week. We've got an interview with Michael Price, composer, tomorrow. We've got a drop-in session for the school's printed music licence. If you've got any inquiries, any questions, come along, have a cup of tea with us, share your questions, and we'll be announcing all of our prizes on Friday. So head over to our website, join our community of educators who support fairness in print music copyright, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.